So here we are, Rise of Shadows. This is considered by most to be the turning point in Hearthstone, where Blizzard really just said fuck it and put the pedal to the metal on, card power creep, and it's pretty apparent when you actually look through the set. Some of the cards that were printed in here are fucking nuts, especially lackeys, of course. That being said, as always, we're going to start with Druid, but I'm just not looking forward to doing this set. I probably won't even do 2 cards for every class, to be honest, because there are just so few cards that I feel like even need touched. A lot of cards are just bad, and that's how cards should be. I don't really have anything interesting to say about Druid. Keeper Steladris was a really powerful card, in Token Druid, but that's all I can really say. Just Crystal Stag, boom, 4 mana, wow, that's significantly better. Maybe increase the attack to 5/4. Wow. Heal Druid's just one of the most fucking boring archetypes I've ever seen. I'm not gonna lie. It's so stupid. I'm not surprised why Druid never brought it back. It's just incredibly boring. Doesn't really synergize with most of the other things Druid wants to do anyway, so I'm not really that picky about it. Of course, if I'm touching Stag, I'm gonna touch Lucent Bark. I think this card could easily be 6 mana. It's a really weak card. I think really, if you restore any health, it should probably awaken, but it's fine. There's not really much you can do to the Heal Druid package without just printing more cards to make it, actually have support. But I just wanted to go over the Heal Druid stuff because I know for a fact if I did Rise of Shadows, people would bring it up. Now we have Hunter. I actually do like Hunter's Rise of Shadows appearance. I like Rapid Fire. I like Verisa. I think that this card should probably be 5 mana. Maybe just 5 mana 5/5, so it's not over. It is a little understated. You get Thoridal, Star's Fury, which is a 2/3 weapon that after you swing, you get +2 attack or +2 spell damage on your turn. This card could be 5 mana. Any cheaper would probably be a little too strong, I'll be honest. But at 5 mana, there's just nothing wrong with this card. You could pay 3 mana to have the effect just on a Street Trickster. This card takes you get the 5 mana to set up your turn for if you want to do a big combo turn. I've done it a couple times in Wild. I've had Verisa decks. They're not great. I think what you would probably have to do is buff Rapid Fire, of course, print more multi-use spells because Hunter just doesn't really have many good spells. So yeah, I think Verisa to 5 probably just fits the power level of this card a lot better. Of course, I mentioned Rapid Fire. I think you just revert this card completely to 1 mana, deal 1 damage. Yeah. Oh no, you can play this in Odd Questline Hunter again. Oh no. I don't think Odd Questline Hunter would actually be that big of an issue with just a Rapid Fire revert. The decks that you're playing against nowadays are so much better than they were 2 years ago. It's unreal levels of power. Or 3 years ago, I should say. I guess it's 2022, but whatever. We've had 2 years, 2.5-ish of cards since then. I think that Rapid Fire going to 1 is completely fine. It makes the Verisa deck a lot better. It makes Spell Hunter a lot better. It obviously makes Questline and Odd Questline a lot better. And all of those are decks that fucking suck, so I don't see any reason why we couldn't buff Rapid Fire to help out for these Spell Hunter decks. Also, this should just be an arcane spell. It has the what are they called? The Kirin Tor symbol, right there in the card over the arrow. This should be an arcane spell. It just should. I don't know why they didn't make it an arcane spell, but they didn't for some reason. I think Magic Dart Frog is actually a really cool card. In Festival of Legends, what's it called? Aerosmith, was printed as a 2 mana 2/3. After you cast a spell, deal 1 damage to the lowest health enemy. So Magic Dart Frog, first you could easily do is, 2 mana 2/3, deal 1 damage to the lowest health enemy. Oops. And then it's exactly the same text as your Aerosmith, except it's not a beast, which... If Aerosmith were a beast, it would be significantly better, but it's not. It's a Naga, which is funny because Mage would prefer the Naga over the beast. So it's really funny how, like, that's why I want these cards to be the same, is because it kind of just is funny that either class would prefer the other tribe by a large margin. Like, if Magic Dark Frog was a beast, you could give it Poisonous with Serpent Bloom, and that'd be a lot better. If it was a Naga, you have a lot of Naga synergy cards in Mage. You could do, like, Naga Mage, where you do, Naga Spell, Naga Spell, Naga Spell, and you can actually make use of the spell function on the, if it were Aerosmith. If I'm probably going to do another video about cards that are very similar in other classes, and I'm definitely going to bring those two up as cards that, if they were swapped, would probably be a lot better. Of course, with this Magic Dark Frog buff, because the card initially is just terrible. Kirin-Tor Tricaster is actually a really cool card. It gives you a lot of spell damage for a downside if your spells cost 1 more. I think this card could probably be like 2 mana, 2/2, same effect. The reason that this card should be cheaper is, of course, it makes you have to spend more mana anyway, but you have to consider that at the time this card came out, the best +2 spell damage card was 4 mana, and that was it was from Boomsday. It's like the Mage one, whatever. And it was for 4 mana. But nowadays you have Street Trickster, which is 3 mana +2 spell damage. I think that this card at 2 mana probably would be a lot better. Would it see play? Probably not. But it would be significantly, significantly, significantly better. And that's kind of the thing, is a lot of these cards just need to be so much better if they were even to have any chance of seeing any play. And as it currently stands, Kirin-Tor Tricaster 3 would be fucking useless, so what's the point of buffing it, For Paladin, this expansion was about Secret Paladin. Not really a thing anymore, but I thought it would be interesting as if, Commander Risa just had the text of, what's it called? Product 9, just battle cry, recast your secrets that triggered this game. This would make the card so much better. Your secrets casting twice is completely useless. Mainly because a lot of secrets actually don't gain really any value from casting twice. Or they're just not great anyway. You want your secrets to trigger, and you don't want to have to pay a 3 mana minion before you can even do anything. So bumping Risa down to this, 3 mana version of Product 9's 2 mana cheaper, but all of the Paladin secrets are significantly worse than Hunter secrets. I think this would be pretty fair for the game, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. It's pretty simple. I think that the Product 9, replaying secrets thing is cool. I do think it's just objectively cool. I think a lot of people would agree it's objectively cool. Risa is currently fucking useless, so I don't see why it couldn't just make it have the same text as a card that people already like. People really do like Product 9 a lot. This would fit pretty well in a lot of, Reno Paladin decks. You could get your Hidden Wisdom back, you could get your Galloping Savior back, you could get an Oh My Yogg back, and that would just be good enough. Just those 3 alone would be good enough. It makes it so you actually want to have secrets in your deck, and yeah, that's the thing. Secrets aren't getting much support anymore, so this is probably the best you're going to get. Desperate Measures should have... This one's a really simple change. Twin Spell, Discover, discover a random Paladin secret, and cast it. Wow, this becomes so much better. Now, instead of just being completely random, it's discover kind of random, which is, significantly better. Would this card see play? Probably not. You could make an argument that it could be 0 mana. I don't think that really makes too much sense, but I could see it. It's just, this card is hard to make good because there's so many bad Paladin secrets. Yeah, you get 2 of them, but now that you have Discovery, you're actually, so much more likely to not low roll. And you would just prefer that, right? You don't like low rolling when you're playing a card like this, so buffing it in a way like this just fits. Madame Lazul. So this isn't actually that bad of a card. A lot of people run it in Reno Priest. I'm not a fan. I think that it's not great to run this Thief package completely in Reno Priest. I think you only need to run maybe 1 or 2 cards, and that's good enough. Just to help in certain matchups, but you can run it. I think the easiest change is, why is Madame Lazul not just 2 mana? I mean, you have to consider that fucking, what's it called? Uh, Identity Theft is 3 mana to do the same effect as Madame Lazul and a card in your opponent's deck. Yeah, it's a spell, but like, it gets you 2 cards. The trade-off being a 3/2 body, not really that significant. I think a second card is better than a 3/2 body, so I think bumping this down to 2 mana makes it so you don't feel terrible playing this because it's an understated minion. It's already like it was a pretty significant tempo loss in a deck that, thrives on tempo, such as Reno Priest. So it's, again, why I didn't understand the card in the first place. But now it's a Bloodfen Raptor stat line, the 2 mana 3/2 premium stats. I don't see any reason why this would be too strong. I think this doesn't really affect the card that much. I think that a dedicated Thief Reno Priest is still worse than regular, but it definitely makes that deck better. Okay, Lazul's scheme. So I was thinking, reduce the attack of an enemy minion by 1 until your next turn. What if, by 1, remove the next turn, if it has 0 attack, destroy it. Reduce the attack of an enemy minion by 1. If it has 0 attack, destroy it. Upgrades each turn. You have the new card, Power Word, or Shadow Chord. What the fuck is it called? Shadow Chord Distort, which is 3 mana, give a minion -5/-5. If it has 0, destroy it. So, obviously this takes a lot of turns to ramp up, which is why it's a little, more. Maybe you could say it should be 1 mana, which would be fair. 0 mana is probably really strong. 0 mana just destroy 1 attack minions, probably a lot. Or 2 attack, I guess, after 2 turns. So for 1 mana, you actually have to pay a little bit. But this is now very similar to something like a Light It Burns, where it's going to deal, it's 1 mana, deal its attack to the minion to destroy it. Now, it's very similar. 1 mana if it has, less than 1 to, probably like 5, where it'll probably be attack, it'll get destroyed. It's very, like I'm saying, it's very similar to Light It Burns. And I think that that's a good design card. I think Light It Burns is a very well designed card. So I think putting the Lazul scheme like this fits a lot better. It makes the card significantly better. The scheme cards are pretty much unplayable garbage in Wild because they require so many turns to be set up. And they're not even that great once they have like 3 or 4 turns set up anyway. So a card like this, giving it a significant buff like this helps a lot. So you have Vendetta. 4 mana, deal 4 damage to a minion, cost 0 if you're holding a card from another class. I feel like cards that only hit minions for damage are pretty terrible. We saw recently the Glow Sticks card in Paladin, and I had spoken on the fact that if that card, was printed for most other classes, with the class mechanics based around it, it would be pretty fucking strong. So I want to put my money where my mouth is, and I think you could make Vendetta just similar. Or deal 4 damage. Cost 1 less if you're holding a card from another class. The flip side is that Glow Stick, costs 1 if you played a holy spell that turn, but it also has lifesteal. Vendetta, of course, is if you are holding a card from another class. You could easily make it if you played a card from another class's turn, which I think is what Ransack does, the 0 mana version of Vendetta, where it starts at 0 mana and then can increase to 4. I think that's what that does. I'm not too sure. I'd have to look it up. But I think this, fits a lot better. The trade-off is there's no lifesteal, but it's almost always going to be dealing, 4 damage. Is that really strong? Probably. I think this card would maybe see play in the, pack Miracle Rogue. Just sometimes getting that 1 mana deal 4 is pretty decent, especially if you have other cards like that. It might not see play in that deck, actually, now that I think about it. Because you don't actually want to have the pack cards in your hand. The only way you can really do it consistently is to play the pack and then play Secret Passage so the cards don't get discarded, which is something you can do, but it's not likely to happen. So you probably wouldn't play this in this deck. It would just help an aggro Thief Rogue significantly, though, which is where the archetype probably should be if it wants to see any play. So yeah, that's why I think this is fine. Attack Noswhisker. This is just a really funny card. It's not great. It saw a tiny bit of play in like a, shuffle rogue when it first came out, but it wasn't really that great, that deck. So I'm thinking, would it really be too big of a deal for this to be a Harvester of Envy stat line, 3 mana, 4/3? Yeah, that's a significant boost to, or like stat and mana cost reduction and all that, but like, the Harvester of Envy stat line, 3 mana, 4/3 fits so well for these like pretty terrible value cards where it's like, okay, yeah, it's kind of cheap, but you still have a 3 mana tax before you can actually do anything broken with it. And that's the big kickers. 3 mana is a lot. That's a third of your mana. If you're at 10 mana, I guess it's technically 30%, not 33%, but you get what I mean. And yeah, shuffling is a little bit easier than playing cards from your opponent's deck on the same turn, but like, who fucking cares, dude? Shuffle, like, you're not stealing the cards from your opponent. That's why Harvester of Envy is like so big if it stays, is you're actually stealing the cards from your opponent. This is just getting your own cards back. So it having the same stat line and cost, nothing would be ever wrong about this. Like, I think the only thing that could be maybe considered bad about this is like, if you were to play Garrote with it, you could like keep the Garrotes in your hand maybe, and you could have like a Malagos rogue, and that's kind of cool actually. That's actually really cool now that I think about it. You could like shuffle the Garrote, or you play Garrote to deal 2 damage to your opponent, you shuffle the Garrotes into your deck, but because they're also shuffled when tap is on the board, you get 1 mana deal 2s to your opponent. So you could save it for your Malagos or something like that. That's actually really fucking cool now that I think about it. That would be really cool. It would be terrible. It would be so much worse than current Garrote Rogue. That's actually a really fun application that makes me want this card to work like this now, actually. Sludge Slurper. In current day, it doesn't need this overload tag. Wow. The card would be, like, actually so significantly better if you got rid of overload on it. There's a world that you could run this in just actual Shutter Shaman. Obviously, like, a lot of Shutter Shaman decks are running the quest from Old Doom. Don't know if they should. They probably shouldn't be, especially because you want to, get rid of it at some point, but whatever. So this would help that a lot. Obviously, this is a gigantic fucking buff to Murloc Shaman, an archetype that hasn't been good in a actual long-ass time. So I don't see any reason why we couldn't buff Murloc Shaman, buff Battle Cries and Shaman, buff Lackeys and Shaman all at the same time. It's Sludge Slurper. It's an iconic card. It can be buffed. So we got the Hagatha in... Whizbang's Workshop, which is a 5 mana 5/5 to do pretty similar effect. I think it's at a 5 mana 5/5 horror. I think it should be add 2 5 mana 5/5 horrors to your hand. Teach them a shaman spell. This puts it significantly more in line with the new Hagatha that we have from Whizbang's Workshop. Same mana cost, it has a very similar effect, but instead of being, 7 mana and then having the issue of sometimes you can get 2... so you would get 2 spells on the body. I think that 2 spells on the body probably is more problematic at this, like, lower mana cost, especially with, like, Shutterblock, if you can get something crazy. So I think having 2 makes it, more of a value engine card, similar to the new Hagatha, of course, and I think that it would just be cooler. Does anyone think that it would be less fun to have 2 different horrors rather than 1? I don't think so. Like, I feel like having 2 horrors is just more interesting, gives you a lot more flexibility with the card, and it just puts it more in line with the new one that we have today. Personally, I think that's where it should be. Plot twist. This is such, like, an iconic card. Like, people really thought that this would make or break Warlock for a long time. Like, it would be the Warlock Secret Passage, and I think that's what it probably should be. It probably should be the Warlock Secret Passage. Secret Passage came out, and it was super broken, and, like, it's the super iconic draw card for this class that already has so much draw. Why couldn't Plot Twist be the same thing? You already suffer a lot from just not needing a card like this anyway. So buffing it doesn't really do that much for a lot of decks, but it now gives you an actual just like get out of it's like Finley, I should say. Finley was 1 mana 1/3. This is now 1 mana for the spell, so it's kind of more in line with Finley than anything else. I don't know. I feel like this card is super iconic for Warlock, A lot of people really like this card. They like what it was doing. They like what you could do with it in theory. So I think just tacking the mana down. I mean, it's not like you're running this in even Warlock anyway, so it doesn't really affect that. But it just feels like a necessary change, in my opinion. And it just puts it more in line with Finley, and now like you can actually run both and like your Reno Lock, and you'd actually feel pretty good about it instead of having this 2-mana do nothing card. Like you were using it to fish, but because it was 2 mana, it was so hard to do. That's why Finley is so good. I mean, I don't know. I just think that this makes a lot of sense. Okay, Arnasi Broodmother. Of course, I buff Plot Twist. I'm going to buff Arnasi Broodmother. I think the first thing you do is you add Tradable. What is this? Oh, that's the tag. Taunt, Tradable. Whenever you draw this, restore 4 health to your hero, and then I think you just make it so it's not a useless minion when you actually have to play it. Being a 4/6 just didn't really make any sense. Like, yeah. Now you don't feel as bad running this in your, like, Warlock decks that want to be summoning demons. It's still a 6/6 instead of a 4/6. Maybe it could have been, like, a 4/8. Who knows? I think this is it's just so significantly better for the card. I don't really have much more to say about it. I'll keep it as a 4/6 for right now. Oops. Keep it as a 4/6 for right now. It would be just a lot better, as all I can really say. Like, Tradable adds so much to this card, adds so much healing to your deck. It actually lets you cycle a little bit more. I think this card would have been a perfect target for Tradable in the past, and I'm a little surprised that we didn't get a card similar to this anyway. Maybe Heal 4 on Tradable is a little too strong, but, like, who cares? You know? Wrench Caliber. So, why is this still here? Anyway, so they nerfed the shit out of bombs in Warrior with the Reno change that happened a few patches ago. Coincidentally, right before they reintroduced bombs, so I who fucking knows why they did that. Anyway, I think Wrench Caliber could probably just go 3/3 weapon. Wow. For most weapons, this is just a 3 damage buff, but it shuffles a 3rd bomb into your opponent's deck. I mean, come on, dude. It's not like Bomb Warrior is like a fucking meta tyrant deck that can't have a buff like this. It got some support that isn't even good. Like, yeah, Explodineer is fine, I guess, but the 10-drop is unplayable. Like, actually unplayable garbage in Wild. So, giving Wrench Caliber 3 durability means it gets 1 more swing, which means it gets 1 more bomb, which means it's a little bit better. And that's kind of where a lot of these should be, just a little bit better. Dr. Boom's Scheme. I think this one should probably be something like 3 mana, summon a 1/1 Boom bot. I think that shuffling bombs on a Scheme card is really fucking bad. Anyone that would ever suggest, oh, it should have been shuffle a bomb, upgrades each turn, what the fuck are you thinking? Because that would be, like, so goddamn broken. You get this shit in your mulligan, you play it on, like, turn 7, you shuffle 7 fucking bombs in your opponent's deck. That'd be unfucking real, right, for Warrior? So I think Boombots, fine. A lot of them are capped out anyway, like Rafam's Scheme. This is similar to Rafam's Scheme, where it summons 2 1/1s, and this summons, a 1/1 Boombot, so it's relatively comparable, I'd say. Dr. Boom's Scheme obviously doesn't have, Darkest Hour synergy like Rafam's Scheme does, but, let's be real. Dr. Boom's Scheme is one of the biggest, disappointment cards ever. It was obvious that it was supposed to have something to do with bombs, and then they're like, man, this would be really fucking unfun to play against. If it was shuffle bombs in your opponent's deck, it would have been unfun to play against. Because when you shuffle bombs in Hearthstone, you're shuffling, like, 1 a turn, maybe 2. If you shuffled, like, 7 bombs in your opponent's deck at 1 turn, that would be so fucking toxic, it's unreal. Anyway, Boom Scheme, 3 mana, 1/1 Boombots. Portal Keeper. So this is actually a card that I thought is just really cool. I like the effect, I like the idea behind it, but it's just really bad. First of all, why is it 4 mana? It should probably be, like, 3. If it was just 3 mana, 5/2, no differences, this card would be so much better. Wouldn't be good, don't get me wrong, but it would be a lot better. I think what you could do is say fuck it. 2 mana. Obviously, you change the stats. Maybe like a 2-mana 2/2. I feel like Rush is too strong, though. Just shuffle 3 portals in your deck. When drawn, summon a 2/2 demon for 2 mana. It's a 2/2 demon. Very simple. It's incredibly similar to, not Acorn Bear, the Vibrant Squirrel. It's a 1 mana 2/1 that Death Rattle shuffles 4 acorns that summon 1 mana 2/1s. So this is 2 mana 2/2. Shuffle 3 portals to summon 2/2s. It's a neutral card. It's going to be worse than a class card, so that's what neutral cards should be. So I think this fits pretty well. I actually like this a lot. I'm not going to lie. I would play this in some decks. Genuinely. It would actually be quite good. But I think this is probably where a card like this should be. Spell Book Binder. This is actually a really interesting card. I think spell damage as an archetype could have been expanded upon from Rise of Shadows. They just really didn't go anywhere. I think Spellbook Binder obviously is too weak as a card. I think you could go the easy route and make it 1 mana, right? Which would be kind of interesting in a lot of decks, but wouldn't really make sense most spell damage decks anyway. So I was thinking, what if you have spell damage, draw 2 cards? 2 mana, draw a card, minion, with not really a condition, is already a thing in Gold Banner. Yeah, it has less attack, but it's drawing you continually, has no conditions, end of turn, yada yada, right? So, Spellbook Binder has a condition, and it's a relatively hard condition. Having spell damage is not easy, especially when you have to play like a minion like this. So, drawing 2 cards from it is a worthwhile trade-off, I think. I don't see any real problematic issues with this card. It would make it so you could play like a tempo mage that uses spell damage, or like Shaman, again, that uses spell damage, and that would feel pretty good. The funny thing is that if this card were 3 mana with the same effect, it would be significantly better because it could go in Odd Shaman, and Odd Shaman has no card draw. But I think that I don't want to change the mana cost on this card because that doesn't really fit where I'm thinking the card should go. So I'm leaving it like this. Sun Reaver Spy. Okay, this is going to be a complete rework. Not complete rework, but mostly a rework. I think that it should be has +1 for each secret you control. So it's obviously, if you have 1 secret, it's worse. If you have 2 secrets, it's worse. If you have 3 secrets, it's finally better because it'll be a 4/4. Then, of course, if you have 4 or 5 secrets, it'll go up to a 6/6. Not super easy to do, mind you, to have 5 secrets. It's not the hardest thing in the world, don't get me wrong, but this would be a huge buff to like Even Hunter, Secret Hunter. It would be maybe a buff to Secret Mage. I don't know if Secret Mage plays this card, but it would be a gigantic buff to Secret Paladin. The whole card was already made for Secret Paladin anyway, so now it's just significantly better for the deck. And then, of course, you have 2 options. You either kill the minion and trigger secrets, or you trigger secrets and then you can kill the minion. So there's an easy way to play around this card is you have to go for the secrets first, and then it loses all its power. It becomes a shitty 1/1, and that's the power level trade-off for this card. Anyway, this is going to be here from me. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you think of these cards down below. Did I change any cards you like? Did I miss any cards you wish I got changes? Do you not like any of the changes that I made? I'd love to hear all about it, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Shadows are rising again, darker than they've ever been.